जी नमस्कार.
Namaskar,
Thank
namaskar.
you for joining.
It's
Thank you
always
for
pleasure.
joining.
It's always pleasure.
बेहरा सर मैंने देखा ज्वाइन किया. बेहरा सर नमस्कार. विनोद जी, thank you for joining, sir. So finally we will meet for our NAP discussion and सबको दशहरा फोन पे वर्चुअली हुआ था, बट फिर भी आज सामने सामने वर्चुअली हो रहा है. तो दशहरा का फिर से नमस्कार आप सभी को. दिवाली भी आने वाले हैं. So Antara, we will I think you are ready and we will start sharply 2 p.m.
Okay, sir. Sure.
So, thank you. मैम आप कभी कहीं बाहर गए थे क्या बीच में? कनाडा गए थे, जो उसका कैसा रहा हुआ?
Yes, it was very good. I have been awarded by Commonwealth of Learning Canada. So I had gone to receive the award.
Congratulations.
Honorary fellowship. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Vera sir, namaskar. Thanks for joining first time with SAIARD.
Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, one and all.
Very good afternoon, and I would like to share a secret to you that our first international event of SAIARD was held in collaboration with your KISS.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's we have some connections with your university, and there are the dignitaries from Thailand and Nepal. The people, I'm sorry, Bhutan. The people has joined with us, including the vice chancellor.
Yeah.
विनोद सर कैसे हैं आप?
सब अच्छा है. Our vice chancellor
विनोद जी नमस्कार.
सर नमस्कार सर.
सर कल हमारा जो हाँ बोलिए सर, बोलिए.
हमारे वाइस चांसलर सर ने भी ज्वाइन कर लिया है.
श्योर सर से मेरा बहुत पहले ही बात हो गया आप लोगों से पहले. सर को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, सर ज्वाइन किए हैं हमारे साथ. और मैं आप लोगों को बताऊंगा कल हमारा 16 तारीख NEP का जो इनॉग्रेशन डे था, इनॉग्रेशन प्रोग्राम था, वो भी बहुत अच्छे हुए थे. हमारे UGC के ईस्टर्न जोन के डेप्यूटी सेक्रेटरी मैम ज्वाइन किए थे, त्रिपुरा यूनिवर्सिटी के प्रोफेसर भी थे, एंड रमेश पोखरियाल जी खुद बहुत अच्छा एक स्पीच उसने दिए NEP के ऊपर. तो 10-15 मिनट का बहुत अच्छा एक स्पीच उनके दिए थे. तो ठीक है मैम. तो सर आज हम अपना जो NEP वाला कार्यक्रम शुरू करते हैं. आई रिक्वेस्ट अंतरा टू स्टार्ट द सेशन. ओवर टू यू अंतरा.
Okay, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you. So, good afternoon, namaskar, and a warm welcome to the distinguished guests, delegates, speakers, and the participants. I am Athura Kundu, Project Executive, South Asian Institute for Advanced Research and Development. On behalf of SAIARD, my heartfelt gratitude to all the esteemed delegates for accepting the invitation and presiding over this national level symposium on the philosophical perspectives of national educational policy. After the successful completion of inaugural ceremony, here we are to start our symposium. This event has been organized by South Asian Institute for Advanced Research and Development in association with and sponsored by Indian Council of Philosophical Research, Ministry of Education, Government of India. So, further making any delay, may I now request Dr. Bishwarit Roy Chaudhuri to say a few words. What to you, sir?
Thank you, Antura. Thank you. And first of all, on behalf of our South Asian Institute for Advanced Research and Development, SAIARD, I heartily welcome to all the delegates, and they are all one kind of mentor. I mean, not directly, but indirectly, they are one kind of mentor for, and with their guidance, with their support, I always prefer to get their assistance. And today, it's a very pleasure day for us as well, because on behalf of our institutions, we have organized the NEP event, and it is the 7th time we are going to organize this NEP lecture series. And before that, we have organized several 6 programs on NEP on different issues, and there are the several vice chancellors also joined, and I think MEM has also joined in previous on our discussions. So, and as I will not share details about the NEP, because just I would like to share some points about our institution activities. So, as SAIARD, from the very beginning of our platform, we have community focused on the community-based learning system as well as the livelihood support. Along with that, we have incorporated the research, academia, industry, government organizations, universities too. And not only that, which I have felt as a teacher, that we have to listen from the people, those who are working in the other sectors, also those who are working in the different states, and whatever they're thinking. That's why completely from the very beginning of our platform, we have connected with the several dignitaries throughout not only India, but throughout the world. And we have conducted so many academic events, either virtually or physically, as that the students, as the research scholars, or the upcoming generations can be able to learn, can be able to know what are their thinkings. And I think through these interactive discussions, we are definitely be enriched, and not only that, our students community, our upcoming researchers community will also be enriched. And due to this reason, from the very beginning of our platform, since we have connected with the several government of India organizations like Namami Gange Ministry of Jal Shakti, Urban Ministry, IMD. Recently, we have signed MOU with the Mausam Bhavan, IMD, and Department of Science Technology too. And in collaboration, we have conducted so many training capacity building programs. And dear sir and ma'am, you will be happy to know that with our efforts, within a short span of time, we have provided the job opportunities of more than 59 students, even during this COVID period. And they are working not only in West Bengal, but also the other states. And some of them engaged in our projects also. So this is one kind of proud I feel. And hopefully I'm at the age of your little brother or students as well. But still, I'm trying to do something through this platform to connect the world to in front of the student. Not only that, as our honorable Prime Minister's vision, that is the government of India's vision to make India Vishwaguru, we from the very beginning we have connected our institution with the different international organizations. And on the platform of yesterday, on 16th for platform NEP inaugural event, we have signed an MOU with the International Diplomatic Club of Russia, and that is the part of the Russian embassy, and they are very delighted to connect with us. And today we got the information that Kathmandu University, Nepal, would like to sign an MOU with us. And yeah, and also the SAARD Cultural Center is also connected, and we are organized two programs as well. And in one program, NEM has also joined as our honorable resource person. So this is just I'm trying to say that through these different interactive activities, we would like to give a shape. We would like to, in practice, we are in practice to give the shape of NEP. What is the vision of NEP and what is the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat? Because what I feel that Atmanirbhar Bharat is not just a term, it's a practice which we have to do through our academic initiatives. And as an academician, and through these activities, we can approach and we can provide some livelihood support to our students, and it will be a great option, betterment for the benefits of the society. So that's our initiative, and we have conducted. And I'm very much happy that with a very short notice, you have all associate with us within your busy schedule, and it's really, really a heart-touching event. And hope through your discussions, our students, our research scholars, because your recordings will be circulated through our all social media platforms, and definitely it will be helpful to get a new ideas about the concept of NEP and about the concept of its implementation and how it will be benefited, particularly for our upcoming generations. So with this, once again, I share my sincere gratitude to all of you, and also happy Dashera and upcoming Diwali wishes along with them. And Jai Hind, Vande Mataram. Over to you, Antara. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Today, our first speaker is Professor Dr. Amy Upadhyay. Professor Upadhyay is currently holding the position of Vice Chancellor, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University, Ahmedabad, Gujarat. Earlier, she worked as a professor in the English department of the same university. She holds a PhD and MPhil degree. She has won many prestigious awards till date. She holds membership in different professional bodies and committees like AIU, ICT, etc. She has numerous number of publications to her credit till date. Her area of expertise are academic administration, higher education, open and distance learning, feministic writing, comparative literature, translation studies, Indian poetics, and performing arts. May I request Professor Upadhyay to share her thoughts with us? Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Antara, and thank you, Bishwajit, Dr. Bishwajit Chaudhary. It's really a matter of great pleasure to talk about something which is very close to your heart. Greetings of the day to all the co-panelists, honorable academicians, and maybe learners and researchers associated today on this social platform, virtual platform. National education policy, I think that's an area, if one starts speaking, it may continue for days together, because something very miraculous that has taken place in India, which would really change tomorrow of the nation. Earlier stage, everybody used to call it new education policy, and at every step, everybody was corrected that it's not only new education policy, it is national education policy. Because new becomes old, it changes. Whenever any education policy was introduced, every education policy earlier, all of them were new, which became old. Which is very important of this education policy, it is a national education policy, because it has so closely, so deep-rootedly connected itself to our nation, the identity of nation. So for the first time, ये भारतीय है, ये राष्ट्रीय है. Otherwise, so many things were borrowed from the other country's education system. It was so much of colonial. For the first time, it is Indian, it is Bharatiya, it is Rashtriya. There are so many things that are very appealing in this particular national education policy. For the first time, why it is so important? It is national. And it's being national, it is important because for the first time, it realizes every learner, be it infant, be it be at school level, be it be at higher education, realizes what you have as an Indian. Now you see, till the time I do not realize as an individual Ami what potential I have, for what I should be proud of, I will never be able to contribute in the society because I'm suffering from inferiority complex. The moment I realize my own individual's capacity, what reservoir of knowledge, what capacity, what talent, what potential I'm having, I'll be able to contribute. So once we realize what do we have as either as individuals or as a nation or a civilization or a society, we start becoming contributor. So very important point of this policy is it really makes learner contributors in the society. When I had been to Canada, some of my friends from the other countries, they were talking to me. They were asking, so you have new education policy? I said, yes, we do have national education policy. Then they were telling, it talks a lot of about Indian and Indianness and Indian ethos. And then I lightly told, but that was really fact. That was what I told. What I communicated was fact. I said yesterday in Canada, we were in Calgary. I said my relative had come to meet me. And then in the evening, they asked me, offered me that let us go for a stroll. And then he asked me, okay, Didi, will you drive the car? And I replied, I responded that you see, in Ahmedabad, Lal Darwaja, you cannot drive. And the same way in Canada, your market, I cannot drive because I'm more familiar with my country, my nation, my place, the same way you are yours. The same is applicable to even national education policy. Education for Indian, that should be decided by the Indians, and that really helps. It talks about Indian knowledge system. I'm so happy that Bharatiya Gyan Parampara ki High Power Committee ki ek member bhi main hu. So when we know about what Indian class, I mean, being an Indian classical dancer or naturopath, I have degree diploma in those. I know that those are the rich reservoir of India. So when I know that wonderful 8, earlier 7 and now 8 Indian classical dances, we have 64 arts. We have so many states, statewide languages, then literature, then festivals, and then huge, wonderful traditions carrying its own culture. When we make it a part of our education system, we start realizing that to understand India is not only a geography. India is not geography. It is much more than that. And that's why when we say Indian knowledge system, it talks more about geography. When I say Bharatiya Gyan Parampara, it is much more than that geography. National education policy talks about teaching in mother tongue. I have throughout studied in my mother tongue. मैं पूरी मेरी स्कूल की शिक्षा, शालेय शिक्षा पूरी अपनी मातृभाषा में हुई है. When you study, because with mother tongue we connect more, we are able to see the connection. विश्वजीत जी ने हमें दशहरा की शुभकामनाएं दी, वो नवरात्रि की शुभकामनाएं देते हैं, तो 31 दिसंबर या क्रिसमस से मैं इतना कनेक्ट नहीं करती जितना मैं कनेक्ट करती हूँ दिवाली या दशहरा से. That happens. So whatever, all the possible कि नवरात्रि यहाँ मैं जितना सेलिब्रेट करती हूँ वहां दुर्गा पूजा में मैं आऊंगी, I'll be able to connect, I'll enjoy, I'll cherish that difference. But at the same time, connect is more with the mother tongue. So once, and it has been proven, research proves that विश्व के जो 20 जिसका सबसे हाईएस्ट जीडीपी है, उसका आप अगर डेवलप्ड कंट्री का आप स्टडी करें तो वहां सबसे ज्यादा मदर टंग, मातृभाषा में शिक्षा होती है. और लोएस्ट जीडीपी वाले जितने 20 कंट्रीज या 10 कंट्रीज है, वहां मातृभाषा में शिक्षा की कम हिमायती है. तो मातृभाषा में शिक्षा इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ और डेवलपमेंट से जुड़ता है. National Education Policy talks about Indian Institute of Translation and Interpretation. Interpretation plays vital role. We had colonialism, imperialism, people from the other countries, they came, they translated our epics, they translated our enriched reservoir of knowledge into their own language. But unfortunately, they interpreted also in their own way. Interpretation plays very vital role, and that's why India was a country of snake charmers, uncivilized people, and white man's burden. Because they interpreted. The moment we come forward for the translation and interpretation, we know how to interpret it. That's something great. It talks about 3 language formula. जहां अब देखिए विश्व की प्राचीनतम 7 भाषा जो है, विश्व की प्राचीनतम 7 भाषा हो, उसमें से 2 भारत की, एक संस्कृत एक और तमिल है. और कंप्यूटर से लेकर विश्व की जितनी प्राचीनतम भाषाएं हैं और जितनी मोस्ट पॉपुलर लैंग्वेजेस है, कहीं ना कहीं वो संस्कृत से मिलती है. अब देखिए 3 लैंग्वेज फॉर्मूला में फॉरेन लैंग्वेजेस की बात हुई है, तमिल, मलयालम, संस्कृत की बात हुई, और एट द सेम टाइम मातृभाषा की भी बात हुई. तो इसमें 3 लैंग्वेज फॉर्मूला की बात आई है. Something really very close to my heart is choice-based credit system. It talks about multidisciplinary education. I know, I'm convinced about it. This is so close to my heart. I was a state level swimming champion. I was a cadet captain in NCC Navy. I have been an Indian classical dancer, linguist, language professor. I know that I've learned a lot from NCC. I've learned a lot from dance. I've learned a lot from sports. Unfortunately, the system that we used to offer, a science student could never think of art, or art student could never think of physics. We know that Vivekanand studied physics, Bangla, and English. Now that will be possible under national education policy. We have introduced that at our university also since more than 2 years, that a science student can opt for Indian classical dance also, Indian theater also, and language and literature also. Now those, very close compartment of engineering, medical, science, arts, they will start disappearing. So a science student, a scientist, now you see Chetan Bhagat, wonderful writer, a student of IIT or IIM, all the possible, his mother might have always condemned him that never read. He might have still performed better if he could have studied literature also as a part of his studies. So now there are very strong compartments. Earlier, when we used to study, the best students of medical, doctors were the best, then engineer a little bit lower, then all the possible that a science student a level lower to it, a commerce student still a level lower to the science student, and arts were the useless people because I was a student of arts. It was not that I was a science student, but I was passionate about dance. I was passionate about literature. So I opted for it. Now I'm so happy that with 80-85% science student, they opt for arts because they're passionate about it. Now those compartments, very strict compartments, would start disappearing. National education policy talks about research institute. Again, it is very closely proven and witnessed that whichever country has more intellectual property registered, more research contribution, their economic growth is more. Percentages-wise, very, very close to it. National education policy shows its concern from starting from the school to higher level education. It talks about research institute. It talks about multidisciplinary institutes. If I start talking about it talks about admission in courses instead of program. At our university, we have introduced it, that anybody can get admission in single paper, single course. One has not to, it is not mandatory to opt for a complete program of BA, BCom, BBA, MA, MCom, etc., MSc. They may opt for one program also. A student can earn some credit from certain university in Gujarat, certain in Delhi, certain in Bengal. It's possible. They can. Now it is so much of student-centric. Why I'm more, I would say I'm happier, because open university, open distance learning is also so much student-centric, and national education policy is also very much student-centric. The student is the king. The student decide what paper I want, what kind of content I want, what university I want to affiliate with. So much student-centric. And research also starts earlier age. And again, I would say when we talk about internationalization of education, it beautifully says that 100 universities would be allowed to have its campuses out of India, and 100 universities of other countries would have campuses in India. There we have placed, India and the other countries at par. We are not beggars as India. And when we talk about internationalization of education system, the year-wise, 4 years of UG, and then again, it credits that it talks about, the years it talks about, it is very much closer to the international standards of a higher education. I was given limited time. I hope I've tried to justify the topic, but I'm sure I'm convinced about it as an academician and as an academic administrator, that national education policy would really change not only the academic scenario of the nation, but with academic, social, cultural, and economic scenario of our nation after 5 years, 10 years, and by 2035. Chaudhary ji, it was really great pleasure to talk about something very close to my heart. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much. It was really pleasure. And behalf of all the academicians and academic administrators, and more than that, even the learners, students, I would thank Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Education Minister, for such wonderful national education policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And really, it's a heart-touching speech you have delivered. And it's already created the momentum of that philosophical discussions of national education policy. And ma'am, I would like to just to know one thing in case of your institution, because some questions has raised yesterday. One principal has raised a point that suppose there is an open door policy, one kind of कोई स्टूडेंट आ सकते हैं, अगर कुछ उसका पसंद ना हो तो दूसरे कोर्स में वो ज्वाइन कर सकता है। तो इसमें बैक वो अगर वापस फिर वो कोर्स में ज्वाइन करना चाहते हैं तो इसका क्या कोई प्रोविजन है क्या इसमें?
Now you see, it beautifully talks about flexi entry and flexi exit.
Yes.
यूनिवर्सिटी हमने अपनी यूनिवर्सिटी में काफी टाइम से 3 साल से हमने फ्लेक्सी एंट्री फ्लेक्सी एग्जिट ऑलरेडी इंट्रोड्यूस कर दिए। मेनी टाइम्स व्हाट हैपेंस, पहले क्या होता था कि आप यूजी में एडमिशन ले रहे हैं फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर या फर्स्ट ईयर में, और किसी संजोगों के ड्यू टू सर्टेन सर्कमस्टेंसेस, हालात की वजह से आपको छोड़ना पड़ रहा है, तो आप खाली हाथ लौट रहे हैं। यहाँ क्या हो रहा है कि आपको 6 महीने बाद सर्टिफिकेट मिलता है, डिप्लोमा मिलता है, मे बी एडवांस डिप्लोमा, यूजी, पीजी, तो मोर पॉसिबिलिटी, आप खाली हाथ नहीं जा रहे हैं, आपको सर्टिफिकेट, हम ये कह रहे हैं। और दूसरा उससे भी अच्छा क्या है कि फ्लेक्सी एंट्री भी और फ्लेक्सी एग्जिट, आप कहीं कुछ आपने कहीं से कुछ अर्न करके आप कहते हो कि मैंने इतनी क्रेडिट ऑलरेडी अर्न कर ली, हाँ, तो आपका क्रेडिट में एकेडमिक बैंक ऑफ क्रेडिट एबीसी जो कहते हैं, उसकी वजह से स्टूडेंट को कहीं कुछ भी व्यर्थ नहीं है। Whatever he or she learns, it adds something not only to the knowledge reservoir of him or her, but also adds to credit bank. तो वो एक सबसे अच्छी बात है। और अब सब तो ये भी अच्छा कि आपने 6 महीने यहाँ किए वहां किए नहीं, विश्वजीत जी, उससे भी अच्छी बात कि मैं एक ही सेमेस्टर में अगर 2 पेपर गुजरात यूनिवर्सिटी से करना चाहती हूँ, 3 पेपर्स अंबेडकर यूनिवर्सिटी से करना चाहती हूँ, और 2 पेपर मैं सौराष्ट्र यूनिवर्सिटी से करना चाहती हूँ, तो मैं वो भी कर सकती हूँ। तो एक ही टाइम में वन लर्नर कैन बी स्टूडेंट ऑफ 2 to 3 यूनिवर्सिटीज और 2 to 3 इंस्टीट्यूट्स। दैट इज अगेन सो मच ऑफ स्टूडेंट सेंट्रिक अप्रोच। ये जो अभी कंपैरेटिव लिटरेचर में इंटरेस्ट है तो मैं यहाँ रखूंगी, ईएलटी में इंटरेस्ट नहीं है तो मैं वहां नहीं रख, सो दैट इज पॉसिबल। यस विश्वजीत जी।
तो ये जो फ्लेक्सिबल एग्जिट एंड एंट्री के बात आप बोले, तो उसमें क्या कोई लॉक इन पीरियड है, जैसे 6 महीने से पहले कोई स्टूडेंट छोड़ नहीं सकता, ऐसा क्या कोई लॉक इन पीरियड यहाँ पे है?
देखिए उसमें क्या होता है, कोई भी पेपर आपको पढ़ना है तो उनके फिक्स आवर्स होते हैं, एज पर यूजीसी नॉर्म्स आपने इतने आवर्स का स्टडी किया होना चाहिए, और उतने आवर्स क्रेडिट्स के बाद आपकी एग्जाम ली जाती है। You will be certified obviously after the examination only, so that obviously there will be locking period of at least 6 months.
Yes, that's why I'm saying.
Yes, क्योंकि तभी आप एग्जाम में अपीयर हो पाएंगे।
थैंक यू मैम। और अगर आप हमारे पैनलिस्ट्स के तरफ से कोई क्वेश्चन मैम के पास है तो आप लोग कर सकते हैं।
I'll be more than happy to respond if any question is there.
Otherwise, we will go for our next speaker. Is there any queries? Ratnam sir has joined, I think. Ratnam sir?
Question not raised, and I think no question.
Okay. So thank you, ma'am. And now I will request Antara to proceed for our another next speaker.
Pleasure.
Professor R.K. Sinha, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Gautam Buddha University, Greater Noida. Antara, over to you, please. And ma'am, I will request please stay with us, as that we can also share the discussions with others. Yeah.
Yes, I'm very much here.
Thank you so much, Professor Upadhyay, for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you so much, ma'am. Okay, so next we have a special lecture by Professor R.K. Sinha. Professor Sinha is currently serving as Vice Chancellor in Gautam Buddha University, Greater Noida. Professor Sinha received MSc from IIT Kharagpur, India, and PhD degree in the area of fiber optics and optical communication technology from IIT Delhi, India. He had held various research and academic positions in different prestigious institutions. He has served as a professor of applied physics and chief coordinator of TIFAC, Center of Relevance and Excellence in Fiber Optics and Optical Communications, a mission bridge program of Technology Vision 2020, Government of India, at Delhi Technological University. He has uncounted number of research publications in leading national and international journals, books, conference proceedings, etc. I cordially request Professor R.K. Sinha to share his thoughts with us. Over to you, sir.
Okay, so good afternoon to you all.
I will, first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Biswajit Roy Chaudhary from the South Asian Institute of Advanced Research and Development to include me to give a talk on this. I will opt for a formal presentation type of a thing. I can go with a personal speaking manner also. So I prepared the PPT format. Is it all right, Dr. Biswajit Roy Chaudhary?
Yes, sir. Yes, completely.
Okay.
Fine.
So in the PPT, being a science and technology domain person, I am aware that this conference or workshop is being organized in association with Indian Council of Philosophical Research. So as a technologist engineer, how to reach to the philosophical domain, I will explore that in front of you, relating the national education policy with the wisdom of Rabindranath Tagore, Swami Vivekananda's activities, including how national education policy meets the specification mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita and Vishnu Purana, as well as Gandhi's philosophy in the national education policy, and finally leading to our Honorable Prime Minister's regime, making India as a Atmanirbhar country in the world, rather making technologically superpower in the world. So that approach I will follow. So I am sharing with the Is my screen is visible?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is the Gautam Buddha University, a state university situated in a greater Noida. In true sense, we are a multidisciplinary university. I will not describe more than that. We are situated in a greater Noida in Delhi NCR. So national education policy, what is being mentioned there? Formally in India, there was an education policy described and detailed in the year 1986. All our distance education open universities are an outcome of that. We have not analyzed the scope, what have been done in the 1986 education policy. Somewhere we have succeeded, somewhere we have not. And therefore, there was a need of a national education policy, because things have changed. The internet has changed the entire scenario of connectivity. Whole business is based on business, as well as a social life is based on the technology provided by the internet. And therefore, with this connectivity, rather dense connectivity, how our education policy should emerge. And accordingly, the government of India, under national education policy, has put it access, equity, quality, and affordability and accountability as a major content in this 2020 policies. And policy envisions a complete overhaul and re-energizing of higher education. We all know it, system to deliver high quality in higher education with equity and inclusion. Again, as it was described by my previous speaker, NEP is a more student-centric. This was a need, and that is why it has been done it, giving flexibility to the students to pursue their passion, at the same time enhancing their skills, enabling them to become more employable also. So only the employability is not the consideration, but the passion of a student should be included in the form of a credit earned and all. So that policy is there. And it is indeed student-centric. Many choice has been given. Earlier, we were deprived of the choice. So we are, in this education policy, interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary education system is proposed. I will go one level ahead. We call that as a transdisciplinary education system, like a music and dance with engineering students, medical courses with those who are studying humanities and science. That provision is there. Since I have worked in more of a technology domain, people think that developing a technology, making commercialization is only for the science or the engineering. That is not true. When we have to enter the market, we have to study the economics, even we have to study the aesthetics of the design and the marketing techniques. So a transdisciplinary approach is required even for the technology development and its commercialization application for the general human being. So higher education, that is, it is, I mean, moving to a large multidisciplinary university and higher educational institution cluster is the highest recommendation of this policy regarding the structure of education. Ancient Indian universities like Takshila, Nalanda, Vikramshila, which had thousands of students from India and the world studying in a vibrant multidisciplinary. This historical aspect is included, that if it has been done during that time, why it cannot be done at this stage when India has substantially developed its manpower and we are almost in the climbing the state of a developed country. Then we must look our ancient past and allow them to happen at this current juncture. And therefore, India urgently needs to bring back this great Indian tradition to create well-rounded and innovative individuals, which is already transforming not only in our country, in other countries, education and economics. So why not use this talent to do and replicate our past history in our own country? So higher educational institution will focus on research and innovation by setting up a startup incubation centers, technology development centers, centers in frontier areas of research, greater industry academic linkages, and multidisciplinary research, including humanities and social science research. Again, I correlate that those who have given their input in drafting the national education policy, I find there is a much more relevance from the Rabindranath Tagore's ideals. We all know that he has favored education in the natural environment, where the child has a complete freedom of expression. He expressed it in many of the writings. And similarly, the NEP has also in essence holistic development of child, that it aims to move education towards real learning, doing away from the rote learning. The rote learning has somehow been center stage, it has become in our earlier education system. So we want to get rid away of this, and therefore certain freedom and a choice of using our passion is incorporated in national education policy. Rabindranath Tagore's ideals were their beliefs in teaching while enjoying excursion and activity method. So this experiential learning is also included in the NEP 2020. Tagore emphasized during his time inclusion of art, music, painting, gardening in the curriculum. Somehow when you were studying engineering, we have avoided of the humanities touch in past. Now it is not the same. So we have suffered because of that. Art and music were a part of only those who are studying in humanities. Now it will no longer be done. And which Rabindranath Tagore has emphasized in his own time. So we are bringing back that flexibility in these subjects in NEP, broader choice of the subjects. Yes, this we are bringing, but accordingly we have to be prepared to offer it. Offering flexibility also is a big task in the educational system. Tagore believed that it was vital for people to begin learning in their own language. This way they can take pride in their heritage. At the same time, he thought there was much to learn from other cultures. He encouraged synthesis between the East and the West. And accordingly, in the National Education Policy 2020, no language barrier, a study in a regional language till class 5th is emphasized. Tagore valued craft and art activities, and similarly, skill-based education and vocational education's importance is given in NEP. Children should be acquainted with the ideals and values of the national culture. This Tagore has in his mind in many of the write-ups, and all one can find it out. And accordingly, in the National Education Policy, promotion of Indian art and culture is emphasized. Again, teachers should be an embodiment of a moral, mental, and spiritual values. He should be an ideal for the student community. And he or she should remain a lifelong learner, the teacher himself. And the same is given in the NEP, emphasizes the capacity building of educators. So I find much more relevance with that. So Tagore believed that the education should prepare the individual for the service of humanity, human regeneration, cultural representation, harmony, and intellectualism. So National Education Policy nestles secured in the Tagore's vision in body, mind, and soul. Its implementation will indeed determine success and failures. If we fail it, we will be going away from the ideals of becoming an Atmanirbhar Bharat or a super technological power with a human values. Is my voice is clear? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir. Your
And
voice is clear, sir.
And slides are also visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay,
Perfect, sir.
so I'm going ahead. Now
Sure,
I
sir.
come back with the Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda always focused on the development of both mental and physical strength. He said one should have a muscles of iron and nerves of steel. Present days governments, Fit India movement and national education policies are inspired by his philosophy. This is by PM Modi's quote. Education is the manifestation of perfection already in a man. Swami Vivekananda captured most comprehensively the meaning and the purpose of education. We want that education by which character is formed, strength of the mind is increased, the intellect is expanded, and by which one can stand on one's own feet. And so all these are possible in the national education policy. It's a significant step in realizing the ideas on education advocated by the Swami Vivekananda more than 100 years back. And not surprisingly, it has found resonance in the very first line of national education policy. I quote that, education is fundamental for achieving full human potential. That is written in the NEP 2020. The NEP has been held by many as a game changer. Yes, policy is good. How do we implement? So that's the responsibility to the educators, governors, governments and the society, with a primary focus of realizing the full human potential and inculcating nationalistic fervor and spirit in our education system. So we hope that NEP 2020 will be able to translate Vivekananda's dream into reality. Now I am correlating it with the NEP and a Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita deals with the subject of what happens, how to remain happy even in the midst of the challenging situation. That is, how to have a happiness index enlarged among the citizens of the nation. The very objective of National Education Policy 2020 is to develop individuals with strong values and character, leading to a happy life, is in a complete concurrence with the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, establishes national for this study. There are many versions of Bhagavad Gita which emphasizes upon developing the value of the system of students. Krishna says that one should never abandon one's intrinsic duty, and all innate duties must be performed by all individuals without fearing for consequences, while living up right with a strong value system. This is given in the verses, of chapter 16. Krishna describes first the divine qualities and then its dominant. The same way, teacher is expected to help a student understand the difference between the two, so that a student consciously adopts the values of the good human being. That is, what is a good human being. So the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita has a potential to address the crucial aspects of NEP 2020, especially the pedagogy, which in itself is the most crucial deciding factor in the successful implementation of NEP. In Vishnu Puran, we are aware that it is written, Sa Vidya Ya Vimukti. That is, knowledge is one that liberates. So it is generally agreed that the basic intent of education should be to liberate human mind and the dormant spirits, and helps us to evolve as a complete human being. And therefore, it is enthralling to see that NEP 2020 has not only recognized the glorious past of India, but has also drawn our attention towards the inclusion of seminal works of stalwarts, which we have been forgotten in literal sense. The stalwarts like Charaka, Susruta, Aryabhatta, Varamihir, Maitri Devi, Gargi, etc. in the present curriculum at a various level from preschool to university level. I will go one step ahead also. After independence also, India has become developed and solved many of its problems by developing its technology, scientific base, be it a white revolution, be it a green revolution. These all have been designed by Indian scientists working in India. Success story of the space research, etc. are an example. So this should be taught among the students, how India has been able to solve its own problem even after independence by our scientific institutions, laboratories, and many of the, even how we have been successful in implementing the governance system by designing and developing the indelible ink. Indeed, all these have been developed within our country. So these are the hallmarks. So we should relate that, and we should teach the students and give these aspects of the development happened in India. Gandhi's ideas of education have been reinforced in the NEP. The NEP, however, is a comprehensive and compact policy document which addresses the contemporary needs of education in the changing global context, while at the same time trying to preserve and promote India's societal and cultural values. His ideas of education primarily were based on his own experience and thought process. The thrust of NEP on values echoes Gandhi's emphasis on character building. The emphasis of NEP on mother tongue finds resonance with the similar ideas of Gandhiji. So emphasis of NEP on multilingualism and the power of language endorses Gandhi's thought and ideas. So the real goals of education must be obtained, cannot be obtained without a teacher. A teacher is the bedrock of education system. Gandhiji believed that teacher must touch the heart and the soul of the students while channeling their aspiration. The teacher must be adequately paid. The Minister of Education, the Ministry of Education 2022 will develop national professional standards for the teachers as recommended in NEP. So NEP, they have avoided the rigid boundaries. I am sorry to say here that these boundaries among the department, among the schools, is created by the teachers. It was boundary and rigidness were so tight that we had no choice but to give it as a policy document so that flexibility is given to the students. And again, if we provide this flexibility, if we follow the national education policy, it will lead to make India as a Atmanirbhar Bharat. So PM Modi spoke about the importance of education as a key component for creating an Atmanirbhar Bharat. He said, we all know that the knowledge has no boundaries. The NEP will open up country's education sector. The intention is to open campuses of foreign universities in India, and our students should get a global exposure. Likewise, research collaboration, student exchange program between Indian and foreign universities will be promoted. The credit acquired by students will be counted in Indian institutions. The NEP will establish India as a global education destination. Like we tried and attempted to open in the foreign institutions, but at that time the policy was not very friendly, and therefore some of the IITs, they started like opening as IITs in the Mauritius, so somehow it was blocked. Today the government has come to offer and encourage us to open the campuses in abroad, and at the same time we are accepting the proposals from the foreign countries to open there, so that a global hub of education, we should be prepared to be there. So NEP 2020 is a supportive, caring, trusting, and aims to develop links between well-being of humanity and academic and moral excellence. NEP 2020 is fully equipped to realize national aspirations. And if we do so, it is in a Bharat-centric and Bharat-centric youth becoming capable of recapturing the lost glory of ancient education system. And therefore, we would be in a position to reposition our country, that is Bharat, as the Vishwaguru. So finally, I will be concluding like this. The preservation and promotion of India's cultural wealth must be considered a high priority for the country, as it is truly important for building the nation's identity. We all must take pride in the ancient Indian educational institutions like Nalanda, Taxila, Vikramshila. These institutions were not just medium for providing education, but they were the embodiment of Indian ethos and philosophy too. Institutions of such a stature with multidisciplinary approach offer learning for today's education system, as it is the kind of education that is required for the 21st century. The National Education Policy 2020 envisions an educational system fashioned on the lines of India's profuse linguistic, cultural, and artistic heritage, and it should be based on the values preached by Rabindranath Tagore and Swami Vivekananda ji. This is my last slide, and thank you for giving me a time. And this I am showing in the glimpses of the photograph of the Gautam Buddha University. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, and thank you for your all-round discussion about the NEP 2020. It's really soulful. So I will you may. I would like to ask, that is, in case of NP system, what are the facilities? Because some students are also associated to this platform. If they would like to know what kind of facility they would get after, suppose, these courses, and in the international collaborations, how they will be benefited, because some international universities will also will set up their unit in India as well. Even Indian and other universities will also collaborate. So how students can be benefited through the international collaboration?
Yeah, so somehow voice was not very clear from your side to me. So I have not understood the question, but it seems you are asking how the international collaboration will be helpful. Am I correct, or can you repeat the question?
Yes, 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 sir.
Yeah. So in every country, there are positive things, I will not say. And we must adopt the best practices available throughout the globe. And that is why I remember there is a story written by that guy, I mean, Gandhiji's, that you allow the winds to flow from your windows, isn't it? You accept only those which is good for yourself, country. So, like in many of the, but at the same time, we should not forget the roots of that. Somehow, this tendency of following the best practices within our own countries was being forgotten, and therefore NEP has emphasized that in internationally also, in some subjects, in some domain, if they are working very good in a collaborative manner, nothing wrong to adopt that, so that there should be a development, contemporary development. India should not be behind that. We have institutions like a Cambridge, Harvard, and all of 800 old institutions. They have a many good best practices. And that is why they are surviving of an 800 and 900. Similarly, in our educational institution like Taxila, Nalanda, imagine during that time they were accepting the foreigner students. So, I mean, keeping a boundary for them is not good. And now, as the knowledge is growing, I mean, whatever the knowledge today is there, tomorrow will be something new. Creation of the knowledge will be there. There is a part that we should be a part of knowledge creation. So the knowledge is growing. And therefore, now it is a more relevance to have a collaboration, not only within the nation, but within the internationally also. So government of India is a very, I mean, thoughtful process, I will say. Earlier people were, somewhere it was saying, no, you develop with this. Government of India has realized that there are something positive in the international campuses also. And that is why they have allowed them to open it here. Their wings and all, of course, they have put some restriction in the beginning that if this much of ranked institutions are there, they will be opening, just to take a precautionary measurement. So I believe international collaboration is a very good idea and very characteristic way it is put in the national education policy, as well as government is trying them to bring them here. And as well as the same time, they are not stopping the Indians to go abroad also. And Indian universities are also opening the academic institutions in abroad. This was not there previously. This policy only says that. 1986 policy has not said about that, opening a campus abroad. Otherwise, IIT Delhi could have opened the IITs in the Mauritius campus. This was, they started, but somehow the support was not given to them. I hope I have answered.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Completely and absolutely have clearly defined the points which I have asked. So now I will request to other panelists if you have any queries. Otherwise, we will go for our next speaker, Professor of Social Science. Antara, over to you, please.
Hello. Hello.
Sir, am I audible? Hello, where is sir?
You are audible.
Okay, sorry, there are some network issues. Antara, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible now,
So
sir.
you please invite there, sir.
Sure, sir. Actually, I have the same problem. I don't know how. But there was some network issue,
Yes,
network
yes,
glitch. I don't know. Okay. So, our next speaker is Professor D.K. Behera. Professor Deepak Kumar Behera is currently the Vice Chancellor of Kalinga Institute of Social Science, Orissa. He was formerly Vice Chancellor of Sambalpur University, Rajendra University, and Beharampur University. His distinguished career has many national international honors. He is the chair of IUAES, Commission on Anthropology of Children, Youth, and Childhood, and former member of Governing Council Association of Indian University. He is the author of more than 120 research publications and 19 books. He has visited more than 30 countries in different academic assignments. May I request Professor D.K. Behera to share his thoughts with us. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Miss Antara Kundu, Project Executive SAIARD, and the Chairman, Biswajit Roy Chaudhary, and my fellow panelist, Professor A. Upapadhyay, Vice Chancellor of BAOU, Ahmedabad, Gujarat, and Professor R.K. Sinha, Professor K. Ratnam, Dr. Binod Kumar Sanwal. So thank you very much. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizer for giving me this platform to share some of my ideas on philosophical perspectives on National Education Policy 2022. So, first of all, I would like to speak maybe half a minute about my institute. Kalinga Institute of Social Science, deemed to be university, is an institution for the Adivasi student. We only admit Adivasi student, and we have 30,000 students. And it starts from KG to PhD, and education is free here, totally free. Lodging, boarding, healthcare, everything is free, and we provide quality education. And Honorable Dr. Achyuta Samanta, the founder of Keys Kit Kims, he has been, providing free education to all these children. And we also believe in this Atmanirbhar Bharat. If time permits, towards the end, I will speak how we are following, implementing it at the field level. So first of all, I would like to congratulate two earlier speaker. It was really marvelous. Both these, panelists made wonderful presentation. So they deserve appreciation, and I congratulate them. And as we all know, education is fundamental for achieving human full potential, developing an equitable and just society, and promoting national development. That is known to all of us. And the pursuit of knowledge, that is Jan, wisdom, pragya, and truth, satya, was always considered in Indian philosophy as the highest human goal. And rightly said by Professor Sinha, at one point of time, world-class institution of ancient India, such as Takshashila, Nalanda, and Vikramasila, Pallavi, they set a high standard of multidisciplinary teaching and research, and hosted scholar student across the globe. And that is no more there, but he was right. He was right in pointing that particular point. And the father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi, thought of education as a process of realization of the best in man's body, soul, spirit. In fact, that gets best reflected in the NEP 2020. And for Mahatma Gandhi, the purpose of education system is to develop human being capable of rational thought and action, possessing compassion, empathy, courage and resilience, scientific temper and creative imagination, with sound ethical mooring and values. You look at, what has been said by our father of the nation, and that gets reflected again in the National Education Policy 2020. And if you look at the Indian scenario in 2022, 27 crores people, which is around 20% of India's population, still remain illiterate. So we have to move and on, and this is an unending process. And as you know, again, NEP 2020 is not just bunch of document, but it's a philosophy. And the new education policy 2020 is a guiding philosophy to convert aspiration into reality. That is very, very important. As we know also that NEP 2020 is based on the draft report submitted by Dr. K. Kasturirangan Committee, which was constituted by the Ministry of SAIARD in 2017. And the major, philosophy behind National Education Policy 2020 are to decolonize the mindset of Indian. This point has already been said by Professor Sinha, and introduce local language learning and multidisciplinary nature of education. And if you look at the highlights of the policy include, higher order of cognitive capacity, foundational literacy and numeracy, digital capabilities. And the hallmarks of this NEP 2020 are like instill among the learners a deep-rooted pride in being Indian, to develop knowledge, skill, values, disposition that support responsible commitment to human rights, sustainable development, and global citizens, and global citizen. And again, also, like Professor Sinha, I would like to relate it to NEP 2020 with the philosophy of Swami Vivekananda. And he has already touched upon this, that how it is important to have a balance, have both mental and physical strength. Rightly said by Professor Sinha that for him, one should have muscle of iron and nerves of steel. And the new education policy is definitely inspired by his philosophy. And, and the next question, we have to see how is NEP 2020 is related to and connected with the philosophy of Rabindranath Tagore. Once Rabindranath Tagore said, "Do not limit a child to your own learning, for he was born in another time." So the child is born not of the father's time, he is born into another time. According to Rabindranath Tagore, education means enabling the mind to find out the ultimate truth, which emancipates us from the bondage of dust and gives us wealth, not of things, but of inner light, not of power, but of love. It is a process of enlightenment, divine wealth that helps in realization of truth. And, again, both our earlier speaker, they said that, especially Professor Sinha, in Tagore's scheme of things, emphasis is on nurturing on child in a natural environment. How we nurture the child in a natural environment. The child should be left close to the environment. He should be left on the lap of nature. And encouraging students to ask questions, expressing themselves fearlessly, experiment and make mistake, and recognizing their uniqueness. Those are the core of education. And thus, if you look at Tagore, Tagore reaffirms that education should aim to acquire ideas through independent effort, curiosity, and alertness of mind. For him, education should develop thinking, imagination, creativity, rather than mere memory or strong storage of scattered information. And when we, reading through the passages of the policy document of NEP 2020 and the insight we receive from the writings and speeches of Rabindranath Tagore, it becomes apparent how much inspiration the policy derives from Tagore. So, therefore, it is very important that educational institutions should build on the power of thinking and imagination in an individual and help turns himself or herself into a self-sustained building blocks of human society and a creative canvas of the nation. And there has been a big stride towards transforming India into the skill capital of the world. There are approximately 25 crores youngster in India in the age group of 15 to 25 of years. Therefore, there is a need for the creation of a model of skill economy that would ensure skill, knowledge, and employability linkages for all the youngster. Some key areas such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, data will be given due weightage in NEP 2020. So NEP 2020 tries to boost skilling and reduce employability, reduce employability gap. NEP 2020 plays a key role in future development of humanity. The new education policy is focused on individual development by providing flexibility in the core structure. The new, NEP 2020 is good policy as it aims at making the education system holistic, flexible, multidisciplinary, aligned to the needs of the 21st century and the 2030 Sustainable development goal. It shifts from memorization to learn, fostering a new generation of thinker. It focuses more on art subject and extracurricular activities that will help create a more diverse society. It emphasizes holistic development and a wide choice of subject with no hard separation among different subject and discipline. It is the hallmark of the new system of curriculum. Now, a student of physics can study philosophy and vice versa. This has also already been pointed out by Professor Upadhyay. Wherever possible, until the at least grade 5, but preferably till grade 8, the medium of instruction will be mother tongue, that is local language or regional language. Therefore, it seeks to ensure inclusive, equitable, quality education and promotes lifelong learning opportunity for all. NEP is based on the principle that education must develop not only cognitive capacity, both the foundational capacity of literacy, numeracy, and higher order of cognitive capacity, such as critical thinking and problem solving, but also social, ethical, and emotional capacity and disposition. So if you look at NEP 2020, it focuses on certain aspect I would just like to highlight: respect for diversity and local context, equity and inclusion, community participation. It should be student-centric and experiential learning has been given emphasis. And use of technology has been emphasized, and it recognizes unique capabilities in each student, and it also emphasizes critical thinking, encourage local decision making and innovation, suggest continuous review and regular assessment by educational expert, and it promotes liberal arts. Liberal notion of the art must be brought back to Indian education. And the philosophy of NEP 2020 gets best reflected in the curriculum. The curriculum talks about creative innovation, communication skill, in-depth learning, mastery of curricular, increases in moral awareness, enjoyment of learning, critical thinking, higher thinking capacity, problem solving abilities, and teamwork. So the flexibility and innovative curriculum should focus on areas of community engagement, service, environmental education, value-based education. And I would like to speak especially about this value-based education. Value-based education should include developing humanistic, ethical, oral, and universal human values of truth, what we call satya, peace, shanti, non-violence, ahimsa, then righteous conduct, dharma, participation in community service, seva, love, prem. All these things are integral part of New Education Policy 2020. However, there are some areas of concern. I would like to point out few: common entrance test, 4 years bachelor's degree, opening of higher education to foreign players, fee capping, then language, ability of books and resource person, English as an optional till standard 8th, then planning to spend 6% of GDP on education, then matching job opportunity at exits. However, all these areas of concern can be overcome by, coordinated effort by this center and state. Finally, I would like to conclude by saying that education should aim at producing engaged, productive, and contributing citizen for building an equitable, inclusive, plural society as envisioned by our constitution. That gets best reflected in NEP 2020. And before I conclude, I would also like to point out that in here also, we promote a concept like what we call Atmanirbhar Janajati Yuva Udyami, that is self-reliant tribal youth entrepreneurs, because everybody cannot be provided with a job. It's very difficult to fetch a job from the competitive market. So we skill them at the level of entry, and so that we skill them in different entrepreneurship activities, and we take into account their um, resources resources in their locality, and accordingly we develop different entrepreneurial activities through our incubator, and we try to make them Atmanirbhar. This is one of the initiative, and we have our concept like professor of practice. This professor of practice are unlettered person or person with very little formal education. They come and teach our student, and they don't teach in a classroom. The whole campus turns into a living lab where teaching learning process takes place on the open campus, and someone would come and teach them, Saura painting. Someone would come and teach them, like Godaba dance, Dhemsa, and someone would come and teach them Changu, and the traditional healer would come and teach them, traditional healing practices, and so on and so forth. So we are also following this so that our students stay connected with their culture, but they derive best of the new education policy NEP 2020. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir. I think we have a question raised from Shomnath Shah. You can ask your query, Mr. Shomnath Shah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Sir, just a query for my side. Is there any provision to offer scholarship in teacher education program as far as NEP 2020 recommendation?
Would you kindly come again? I couldn't get you.
Yes, sir. Is there any provision to offer scholarship in teacher education program as far as NEP 2020 recommendation?
Yeah, scholarship. Now it is still, in its infant stage. A lot many decisions are to be taken, and it has not been fully implemented. I am sure at one point of time there would be some scholarship, but because I am not sure whether scholarship has already been offered to candidate pursuing teachers education, therefore I refrain from answering this question. But I'm sure with the passage of time, your idea will be translated into reality, and fellowship will be offered to desirous candidate seeking a career in teachers education.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shomnath Shah, and thank you, Professor Deepak Kumar Behera, for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you, Dr. Professor Veras,
Yes.
sir. And Antara, sorry to interrupt you. Sir, first of all, a very good presentation. And as I told from the very beginning of this program, that I have connected with your university through an event, and I had an experience, and I got the opportunity to visit the university and for more than 2 days due to these seminar purposes. So it's really a very good impositions of the education and your university is very hats off that you have connected 30,000, more than 30,000 students, and also you have provided the free education and even meal as well, everything. So, sir, do you find anything else or anything different or anything extra advantages in case of such universities which you are the leader one kind of as a, so is there any advantage for those students like tribal students or those who are basically the backward classes? Is there any opportunity through this NEP?
Yeah, I mean, NEP will provide them a lot of scope, and these students are from the remote areas, they are mostly from Odisha and the neighboring state, and many of them are first generation learners. So NEP 2020 will definitely provide them because NEP 2020 is very flexible. And actually, tribal student, first of all, if you go by their nature, they needs that flexibility, freedom. These are part of the tribal ethos and values. So I'm sure they will enjoy because that flexibility is there and it's student centric. So our institution is an institution of innovation. We provide platforms to student innovate. So whatever many times children voices remain unheard. Probably new education policy will provide them that platform where their voice will be heard and they will be taken seriously and they will not be treated as not yet human being, not yet knowing, not yet responsible. And new education provide them a platform where they will be treated as human being with their own dignity and rights.
Thank you. And for valuable presentation as well. And now I will if anybody has any queries, otherwise we will go for next presentation. I think no, and so Antara may proceed. And one more thing that Professor K. Ratnam sir's network was disrupting due to some problems. So we will continue with the Vinod Channel, Professor Vinod Channel sir from Gautam Buddha University, and next day hopefully Professor Kumar Ratnam will join. If we will not be able to join within that time.
Okay, sir. Sure, sir.
And
Okay,
thank you.
so now we have a special lecture by Dr. Vinod Kumar Shanwal. He is currently working as head Department of Education and Training, as well as head Department of History and Civilization, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, Gautam Buddha University, Greater Noida, UP. Dr. Shanwal was worked as an associate professor with Fiji National University at the College of Humanities and Education in Fiji Islands. He had also been awarded a postdoctoral research fellowship, research associate fellowship by the Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR, New Delhi. He is a recipient of prestigious awards like Young Scientist and ESDA Green Award, etc. Dr. Shanwal has been awarded PhD from Jamia Millia Islamia University, New Delhi. He has contributed 4 books, more than 4 dozen papers, including book chapters, research papers, and articles for books, journal, etc. I cordially request Dr. Vinod Kumar Shanwal to share his thoughts with us. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chitra Kundu, the project executive, South Asian Institute of Advanced Research and Development, and the chairperson, Dr. Vishwajit Roy Chaudhary, esteemed panelist, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor A. Upadhyay, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor R.K. Sinha of our own university, Professor D.K. Behre Saab, and my dear friend, Professor K. Ratnam, and other panelists and friends. A very good evening to one and all present here. Though most of the things have been covered by the eminent panelists earlier, but I would like to share few important points which comes to my mind recently. Like when we are talking about this National Education Policy 2020, several things have been covered. Like if we just talk from the perspective of philosophy, so most of the things were covered by the philosophy of Swami Vivekananda, Rabindranath Tagore, and Mahatma Gandhi, as shared and discussed by other panelists in previous presentations. So I would like to just present it a little bit differently. I would like to share, I think my screen is visible now.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. So when we are talking about education, education is not only confined to certain important areas, rather education has an important role to play with renewal of social system also. When we are talking about education, it has some holistic, integrated and experiential approach to analyze the culture from head, heart, hands, and spirit learning. So ultimately, all these have been discussed in this National Education Policy 2020 also. And we have to emphasize on various learning cultural models like constructivist approach was there, hands-on learning, integrated learning, learning model, and more importantly, it was focused on development of competencies. Now we have dual challenges. Obviously, our past was glorious, and undoubtedly, we have ample scope, and our past is obviously glorious, and Indian knowledge system has highest level. But now we have to be little bit we have to be adjust ourselves in the modern system as well. Emphasis on self-determination, self-work, self-organization, and self-management. That is more important now these days, and rather it's a lifelong learning and life-building education. When we are talking it from the 21st century skills, we are not only confined to offline learning. Now we have to just make ourselves competent to deliver through online learning as well. So under this 21st century skills, we have to equip our students with number of we have to equip our youth with the multiple skills or multiple we can say areas have to covered, like learning and innovation, digital literacy, and more importantly, career and life. When we are talking about learning and innovation, ultimately the critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, and more importantly, the innovation, communication, and collaboration. Simultaneously, as we have to compete the world in this 21st century, then information technology or information literacy, media literacy are more important than information communication technology literacy. Then when we are talking about the career and life of the youth, then we need to think about the flexibility and adaptability, initiation and self-directed learning, social and cross-culture interaction, because in this policy, the foreign universities will also have scope to compete with the Indian universities. So we have to think from that perspective also. And the need of today's hour is not only the data, the information. We could click a single, with a single click, we could have number of data, number of information. But whether that information is really knowledge, and our ultimate purpose is not only the knowledge, rather our purpose is just to have that wisdom, and more importantly, the transformation of that. Ultimately, we are not confined for this surface learning, rather our ultimate purpose is deep learning. More importantly, our ultimate purpose is not only knowing the things, rather our purpose is just to have the wisdom of that concept or that thing. In fact, this one important aspect which is discussed in this policy is about, in earlier system, we just confined up to, I'm not talking about the ancient literature, rather I'm just talking which we are dealing with for the past few years. Just remembering and understanding. With remembering and understanding, we just were only able to know. Then apply that knowledge, we ultimately arrived at wisdom. But more importantly, to analyze and evaluate. And now this policy also advocates about creating something new, which is also just talks about this education policy. It's not only talking about the existing literature of the system, rather it is talking about creating something new. It is talking about the innovation. So when we are talking about this Bloom's taxonomy, which is mentioned in this policy, so we are not confined or we are not restricted up to this apply or analyze or more importantly evaluation. Rather, we have to create something new. Then we have to shift from multimodal learning. Like we are just talking, even though in fact our ancient education system was also talking about 64 kalas or 64 skills. So it is not only confined up to auditory, visual or kinesthetic. So when we just combined all these things, it will go from cognitive to metacognitive to memory, and ultimate purpose is just a deep learning. More importantly, we have to encourage this personalized learning. When we are talking about personalized learning, it means we are talking about some instruction, and the purpose of that instruction is just to just construct tailor-made learning, or because we knew all the students are different capability, they know differently, so how could we teach them with the simple or with the same pedagogy or with the same system? So here we have flexibility to just modify or change the curriculum. We have flexibility to improve our quality teaching. We have flexibility to change the environment a bit. We have flexibility to just cater the need of students, and we have different goals, and more importantly, we have to assess the students from 360 degree. Then when we are talking about personalized learning, now these days, we have to just go with this Indian knowledge system with the modern technology. Then we have to learn from this blended learning model. When we are talking about blended learning model, then we have to be adaptive learning, we have to customize the learning, and we have to create something which is individualized learning, and more importantly, the micro learning. So when we are just talking about the innovating teaching, so more importantly, we are talking about the blended learning approach. We have classroom learning as well as we have online learning. We have open universities also, and now these days, the regular universities also imparted some knowledge, or up to 40% of syllabus they could cover through online mode, because this pandemic taught us number of means and ways of living. So we have to just keep that also in our mind. When we are talking about classroom learning, we have to think about online learning as well. So, and more importantly, one important aspect which we faced during this pandemic was students started losing their interest in online learning. The ultimate reason behind that was the syllabus or the curriculum which was prepared was for the offline mode. So gradually, we are working in this direction, like so that a student could be able to self-study, and that student have a mobility, then self-direction learning, and more importantly, self-tracking and control, and a student could be able to get the online assessment, and more importantly, groups and chat discussions. So this facilities is such kind of facilities are easily available now these days. Then flipped classroom. Then earlier the system of teaching was little bit different, and now we could equip this system with this flipped classroom. So I'm not going into much detail as most of the things have been discussed by earlier panelists. So experiential learning approach, we are talking about experiential learning approach, and more importantly, mind mapping. When we're talking about mind mapping, ultimately when we are teaching our students about the colors like yellow fruits, banana, mango, lemon, pineapple. So these are the colors of yellow fruits. So with this, because in this policy, we are just advocating not only the one aspect, rather we have number of other aspects. The education could be integrated, it could be innovative, or it has some connection with the other areas also. So we have red fruits, apple, strawberry. So with such kind of activities, we are able to implement this. More importantly, role play, like interpersonal skills, communication skills, conflict resolution, and developing insight. More importantly, group discussions, because these are the areas where our youth could do better. Real world learning, which is more important now these days. In fact, when we're talking about this education policy, so several important aspects which is covered under this. We are promoting play-based learning, activity-based learning, inquiry-based learning, more importantly, we are giving more emphasis on the behavior of the students. Even though worldwide, if we just study the cases, so adjustment problems are there. In fact, the students are having some suicidal tendency and some other tendencies also. Then under this policy, we have flexibility in the curriculum where then faculty could get an opportunity to develop his or her own curriculum up to some extent. Then we have also more important aspect, like earlier, the training of especially teachers was confined to higher education. Now there is a provision to impart this training to the school teacher as well to the principals of the schools, so that they could also understand what is required, how to just go with the innovations. So such kind of training or such kind of provisions are more important in this policy. And if we just talk about the regulatory bodies, so ultimately we had a different kind of system from a regulation point of view. Like I'm into teaching a teacher education program. We have a regulatory body with the name of National Council for Teacher Education. Somebody who is running this MBA course, they have All India Council for Technical Education. So we have different regulatory bodies. Simultaneously, we have University Council Grant Commission also. So with this, they have just streamlined this regulation system, and ultimately under this Higher Education Commission, we have several other bodies work under the umbrella of Higher Education Commission, like National Higher Education Regulatory Commission. Besides that, we have a National Accreditation Council. Ultimately, we have to just understand, or we have to see the outcome of the education, whether we are meeting out the demand of that education for which we are imparting this education. Then Higher Education Grants Commission, especially we have National Higher Education Qualification Framework, because in earlier policies, I'm not talking about the Indian IKS, rather I'm just talking about the policies which were in existence. So we have number of opportunities with this National Education 2020, where we have opportunity to teach several things through storytelling method, experiential learning, historical method, content method, sharing method, and more importantly, the communication skills. Group discussions where we could develop we could understand from body language, where the students are able to get changes in their behavior. Ultimately, they are able to work in different teams. They could just listen the skills, or they could understand the skills of others, and more importantly, the leadership skills. In fact, if we just talk a bit about the our ancient system, we have very good example of Shri Ramchandraji. All the four brothers were fighting who will become king. चारों भाइयों में जो झगड़ा था वो इस बात को लेकर के नहीं था कि मुझे कुर्सी चाहिए, रादर वो इस बात के लिए कोशिश कर रहे थे कि बड़े भाई को कुर्सी देनी चाहिए, कि बड़े भाई हैं उनको राजा बनना चाहिए. दूसरे भाई कहते हैं मुझे इनको राजा बनना चाहिए. So we have a system, and in an Indian ancient system is a system of sacrifice, not like fighting for any power or position or any lust. So such kind of values could be inculcated through this education policy. And in my own opinion also, this education policy could be one of the best education policy, because it is talking about the real sense of our education system. More importantly, I would like to just say a few words and would like to just conclude. We have a system of this Purusharth, where the object of human pursuit, where we have dharma, arth, kam, and moksha. So when we are talking about dharma, we are not talking about, we are talking about the righteousness, we are talking about the moral values. More importantly, when we are talking about earth, ultimately we are talking about the economic values. Whatever earth or whatever economic values we are considering, that should be based upon certain values. And when we are talking about calm, ultimately we are talking about the psychological values. And we also dreamed long ago about the moksha. When we are talking about moksha, ultimately we are talking about the liberation, spiritual values. In fact, none other than us ever dreamed about the moksha. Rather, people are talking about the this generation or this life. We dreamed about this moksha, which is obviously after the end of life. So I'm really grateful to the organizers for giving me this opportunity, and I'm also grateful to the panelists where I have get an opportunity to share my ideas and view. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I
Thank
think I
you,
have
sir.
completed on
Thank you
the
so
time.
much for this wonderful presentation. And it's really, I am, hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's really mesmerizing and very valuable and insightful lecture as well. So if you have, if anybody's have any queries to Professor Shanwal sir, so you may ask. And sir, in case of your university, as Professor R.C. Sinha has also joined, and sir has also delivered some point, mentioned as point. So, in from your perspective, so how far NEP is teacher centric and how far it is student centric? I mean, if we compare in case of student and teacher centric, and because through NEP we know that NEP in the coming NEP session, teacher will be a facilitator, one kind of, and his role or his or her role will change from not a mentor, just a mentor, but also a facilitator. So in that sense, what should be the beneficiaries among both of them? I mean, the both students and किसके अभी दरवाजा ज्यादा भारी हो.
Uh, No, ultimately, when we are just talking about this NEP 2020, both the options are there and both are equally important. We have given this liberty to the students about this child-centric education, and the role of teacher is just a facilitator. But more importantly, a teacher has to equip himself with the latest technology. Like you must have noticed that a small example of this pandemic just 19. Before pandemic 19, hardly teachers were equipped with technology. Now everybody is just handling this technology. And more importantly, we are equipping ourselves to just compete with the highest or the renowned universities of the world. Though we had a history of renowned universities with us, like Takshila was with us, and we have a number of other universities. But when we are just talking about this modern system also, like we have to keep our roots with us, but we have to compete with the world with the latest technology. So it's a challenge for the students as well as for the teachers. टीचर का काम केवल फैसिलिटेटर होने का मतलब इट डजंट मीन दैट a teacher will not equip himself or herself. Rather, it is challenging for them also. Like they have to just learn latest trends in education, which are being just maintained globally. In fact, the last word which I would like to share with you, the policy of our system was Vasudev Kutumbakam. So when we are talking about Vasudev Kutumbakam, we never thought about this system. When we are talking about Vasudev Kutumbakam, it means we always talked about the system. Like we always dreamed about this. The entire world is just like a family. So we just taken care of the animals, we taken care of the plants, we taken care of the rivers. and we taken care of everything. Rather, we worshipped rivers. That's why this ecology system were maintained. So now we have to live with these values, and we have to compete the world at a latest technological level. So it's a win-win situation for both student as well as for teachers. And as uh, uh, my vice chancellor also just shared, we have also implemented this NEP 2020 at our university.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
My last question to you as well as Behera sir as well. So in case of this NEP system, because our faculty is also there, and our students are also research scholars are there. Suppose in case of research scholars, or if any individual researchers from institutions which are not university but independent research organizations like us, autonomous research institution like us, because we are doing several research works in either in collaboration or individually our faculties, and their publications has already selected in Scopus Index Journal, and already they have published. So in that sense, is there any options or any opportunity in case of our institutions or our faculties as that they can submit any project? Because as you know that in case of UGC, ICT, there should be an UGC recognized institutions, and the faculty should be recognized by the UGC recognized institutions. After that, they will get the project proposal and research proposal. So is there any extra provisions for that kind of academic and autonomous research based organizations and their faculties?
I think sir is the best person to respond. Professor Behra, sir.
Thank you very
Behra,
much.
sir.
As I said somewhere in passing, that still NEP 2020 is at the take-up stage, you know. So this is a very relevant question. Like institution like yours, SAIARD, you know, they are contributing a lot to the knowledge building process, and also they are undertaking research and doing original research. So there should be some provision, but you know, rather I would say that I would like to look at from a different angle. Right now, there is very little scope for getting grants from national or international fund. International, it is possible, but national funding agency in the educational sector, so they don't grant funds unless until you have 12F. You know, they are guided by certain rules and regulations. So institutions which are registered, which have 12F, they will get grants. But new education policies, it's the rule is like tight but light. You know, you must have heard about a term. You know, so the flexibility is there. I'm sure you will get opportunity. And if you ask me personally, all institution, this non-governmental organization doing innovative work with a good credential should be funded by a national funding agency. Many times, for instance, there are limited number of research institute in India, and most of the institution are academic institution. Like we have three category now. All the university will be either research university or like a degree granting college, or normal teaching university. So you see, research university, many university will not get that status, and many university will not aspire for that one. Most of the university will remain like the teaching university, and then there will be degree granting autonomous college. Now the question is in that then who will go to the field and do original research? It is only people like you. Therefore, there should be representative of SAIARD and other such NGO. They will go to the field and do original research, because then there should be some provision, and many things are not clear, because when there is a transition, things will not emerge very clearly. And I would say that, okay, now central government agency and some private university have implemented, but it has not been implemented in full scale in many of the state-funded university, because education finds a place in the concurrent list. Therefore, towards the end of my speech, I said it requires collective effort by the center and the state, to implement it properly. I think there are many landed persons associated in the whole process. So some provision will be made for funding the private players. I mean, private non-governmental organization to do original field research in the coming days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, because actually it will be helpful for us, and as we are also working some research activities on hydroponic plants. GIS application is the main field of our institution. And just before starting this session, Professor K.K. Sinha sir has also told about that. You are working on geospatial technology, and it's good that in case of application sector, GIS is now very important issue. And now, like education, national education policy, we are also, government of India has also published a provision for the geospatial nation, to make India geospatial nation. That is the national geospatial policy, and it has been published by the DST as well. So that is the why whatever the different sectors, and I would like to say a few words that on behalf of our institution, whatever the courses we have organized, maybe the course value is little bit low and too much low. I mean, suppose in there are some university in Kolkata and West Bengal, they offer this course more than 1,50,000, and we offer that same kind of courses within 50,000, and within that period, our students has already got the job opportunities, including during their project period, during their academic period, they are also associated with the industry related projects. And now these kind of initiatives, I think, along with that academic parts, we are also focusing on innovative some research activities, which is very beneficial, because in recent case, flash flood is very an important issue. And we are also working on flash flood related aspect, hazard related aspect, again agrometeorology related aspects. So these are all through the application of GIS technology. And in that case, if government will support in or think about the institutions, the project funding, like our institutions. And on behalf of this platform, I will also request you, as you are the Vice Chancellor.
Biswajit ji, everything of this symposium is getting recorded.
Yes,
I can see a label like recording, and including my voice. So all the, you have captured all the voices. So, I have now recommended, and, it will be in the open domain and public platform. So this can go to the central government in the form of a recommendation. So what I suggested, I spoke from my heart, and that is what I sincerely wish to see. And that's my desire. I'm sure, you can send that as a recommendation by some of the panelists, if you are sending a report to the central government, and I'm sure, they welcome all innovative suggestions, and I have given a suggestion. Thank you very much for giving us the platform, and thank you, Sanwal ji. I enjoyed your presentation. It was a brilliant presentation.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm sure it will be on the website, and maybe send me the link. I would like to go through it once again. I enjoyed all the three presentation. I'm not sure whether Professor K. Ratnam
Professor Ratnam will not be able to join due to some network issues. Hopefully he will join tomorrow. And I will definitely share the recording links to all of you, and just after incorporating our YouTube channel. And now I request Ms. Antara Kundu to give the vote of thanks. Antara, over to you.
Sure, sir. Thank you. So, as we nearly come to the end of the session, before ending it, I must mention our deepest sense of appreciation to all the dignitaries. Professor A. Upadhyay, Professor R.K. Sinha, Professor D.K. Behera, Dr. Vinod Kumar Sanyal, everybody. It is our privilege that learned and resourceful person like you all have accepted our invitation, shared your thoughts through some informative and wonderful presentation with us. Thank you for your time, sir. I may like to express our sincere thanks to Dr. Bishwit Roy Choudhury for taking this initiative and making this symposium such a successful one. And finally, I cannot thank enough to all the participants for joining us today. So with that, of today's session of the National Level Symposium on the Philosophical Perspectives of National Education Policy, my sincere thanks to each and everyone for joining with us. So one last time from the entire organizing committee of SAIARD, I thank you for taking out your time, sharing your thoughts with us and being a part of this. Hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar. Jai Hind.
Namaskar, and on behalf of the panelists, I thank Antara ma'am and Biswajit ji for providing us the platform, and Antara ma'am especially for proposing a vote of thanks. Thank you
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you
very much.